Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Hashtag AskGSM, the weekly Monday mailbag video where I answer your questions from Facebook and Twitter right here in this video forum. Without further ado, let's get down to this week's questions. First one comes from Leroy W. from Facebook. Do you think that the Shield may sometime face each other in a triple threat match? Now, he sent this last week. I was unable to get to it last week, so I'm answering it this week. And that was, of course, sent in before the whole Shield face turn. So before all that went down, I thought the Shield would not turn on one another, not turn face, and then face each other in a triple threat match at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. At this point in time, that obviously does not look likely. On paper right now, it looks like we're going to get the Shield versus New Age Outlaws and Kane in a six-man tag team match at WrestleMania. Whether that match will be entertaining or not remains to be seen, and whether that's a better match for the Shield as opposed to breaking out, but regardless, I like that the Shield is still together, one of the best stables in years. As I've said time and time again, the best stable since Evolution 10 years ago. But will they face each other in a triple threat match? I would like to think so, probably. If not at Extreme Rules in May or April, whenever the pay-per-view is, I think it's in May. If not at Extreme Rules in a triple threat match for the U.S. Championship and a ladder match, no less, and it'd be sexy as hell, then probably at SummerSlam I think would be a good time to break them up. Because I think they should get a little longer of a run as heels. Because if Roman Reigns doesn't break away from the Shield at WrestleMania or the night after WrestleMania, which would be the ideal time to do it, to do the split, then either sometime this summer, so we give them a little bit more time as faces, because I think they have mass potential as faces. So then you do the triple threat match at SummerSlam. We'll get a higher place on the card. Because let's face it, with Wyatt versus Cena, we got Lesnar Taker, the triple threat match for the WWE title. We have the Triple H Bryan match. So with all those matches taking up the top 4 spots on the card, you know this match won't get a very high place in the card. If anything, it would probably be the first or second match on the show, much like the Legacy match was from WrestleMania 26 between Orton, DiBiase, and Rhodes. And Orton has always said that should have deserved a higher place in the card because it was very poorly done. So that being said, I would hope that they stay together for another few more months and then you execute the split. Hopefully at SummerSlam in a few more months they can go on a little longer as faces. Victor T, his question was, what do you think of Cody Rhodes and what can he contribute to WWE in the future? I'm a huge fan of Cody Rhodes, have been for quite some time. I thought he worked much better as a heel a couple of years ago, but I was very happy he turned babyface last year. I think that was way overdue. He had been heel for about 5 years, and ever since Money in the Bank, this guy's been an absolute roll. He had a very good feud with Damian Sandow, which was kind of had the legs cut from right underneath them for some odd reason. I'm not really sure why. But he shaved off the mustache finally. He had a good run with the WWE Tag Team titles with Goldust. He's had a really good thing going with Goldust in the last few months. But if he and Goldust don't go for the tag titles at WrestleMania, which is very disappointing in my opinion, they should be either facing each other or should be in the tag title match, not in the Battle Royal where they'll be easily overshadowed. Then I think he deserves a higher place on the card after facing Mysterio at 27, beating him, facing Big Show for the IC Championship for WrestleMania 28. He was completely left off the card last year because of time constraints, of course, as you know, in the 8-person tag team match with tons of Funk and Road Scholars and the Bella Twins and Funkadactyls, blah, 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 blah. But so I think he deserves much more respect than he's getting now. He and Goldust aren't getting much time on Raw nowadays. But as far as my thoughts on Cody Rhodes, I think he has the potential to be a WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He is only 28 or 29 years old, or will be turning 29 this year. So there's plenty of time for him to break out as a single star over on the main event scene. He's been in a handful of tag teams in the last 6 years since he debuted, 6 or 7 years. So I think it's only a matter of time before he breaks out on his own. He showed in matches last year against Randy Orton and others that he is very worthy of being a world champion in the WWE. When that happens, I have no idea. But what he can contribute to WWE, he can be a main event star in the company. I think if they continue to build him up correctly, as a babyface, as a heel, it doesn't really matter. I think he works well as both, and he's over as a face too. He's shown that the last year or so. So I think he can become a WWE World Heavyweight Champion either later this year or sometime in the next few years. Because like I said, he's only 28, 29 years old. He's got plenty of time for him to break out. Jared J, his question was, at what point should Luke Harper break away from the Wyatt family, and how do you foresee his career turning out? I said this many months ago, but Luke Harper is going to be the breakout star of the Wyatt family. Granted, there's only 3 of them, and Bray Wyatt already is in main event match with John Cena at WrestleMania, and Bray Wyatt is one of the best things going, if not the best thing going, in WWE right now, and pro wrestling as a whole. But Luke Harper, I think, has great skills. He showed that. It's great timing that you sent in this question, because for those of you that watched SmackDown this past week, he had a great match with John Cena, albeit only 7 or 8 minutes long, maybe not even if that. And I think it definitely should have gotten more time. But those two had a very good match on SmackDown this past week. He's been very good on the mic as of late. He has been for quite some time, but his character is developing nicely. He's had a lot of great matches against Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, John Cena, like I just said, and many others. So I think he can become a big star in WWE. As a babyface, as a heel, I don't really know. I don't know if he would turn on Bray Wyatt and then he turns babyface. I'm not exactly sure. I think he has that creepy roll down in the Wyatt family right now. When he breaks out, probably not for a while. I would like to see the Wyatt family stick around for a lot longer. They're only early in their run, so they have a lot of time left. They only debuted last July in WWE or on the main roster. They've been around in FCW, NXT since I think maybe 2012, early 2013. So I think there's a lot of potential left in the Wyatt family to let bloom and whatnot. So I don't think it's time to split them up anytime soon, of course, not in the next few months, maybe not even later this year. Keep them around until at least next year, 2015, and then you can break Luke Harper out. Is he World Championship material? That remains to be seen. I would like to think so. He's a very good wrestler, like I said, getting better on the mic, developing his own character. They're not all the same. Even Eric Rowan, I know a lot of people don't like Eric Rowan. He is a little clumsy in the ring. He is the worst of the three, but that's not even saying that much, considering all three of them are very, very good. Bray Wyatt is phenomenal. Luke Harper is great, and Eric Rowan is improving nicely. So Luke Harper, I think, will be a breakout star in the WWE probably by 2015, I would say. With Cesaro breaking out right now, Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, Big E Langston, I think he will be a part of the next crop of WWE superstars in 2015 to break out from the Wyatt family and establish his own image and become hopefully solidify himself as a top star in the company. Ross asked, which underrated superstar do you think has the potential to be a top babyface and top heel? When you say underrated, I mean, it's all subjective. I mean, underrated could be Tyson Kidd. I think one of the most underrated superstars on the roster right now, Kurt Hawkins. But obviously, neither of those two have the potential to be a top heel or top face in the WWE. So the people that I wrote down aren't necessarily underrated because we all know how good they are. They just aren't in top positions in the company right now. So I don't know if you could technically call them underrated. But I put down Seth Rollins, who I think is very underrated. But I mean, many people have been coming to their senses as of late and seeing that he has very good skills in the ring, on the mic, as a character, babyface or heel. He can flourish in both roles. So I could very well see him becoming a top star in WWE at some point. Dean Ambrose easily could be a phenomenal heel once he breaks away from the Shield. And he is right now as in the part of the Shield. Technically, he's a face right now, but he can definitely be a top heel on his own when the Shield eventually breaks up. So I think he's not necessarily underrated because everyone knows how good Dean Ambrose is, but I think he could very well be a top heel in the WWE. Antonio Cesaro, Cesaro, whatever. I think he'd be a top heel, face, whatever they, opt him to be. He gets the cheers for a face, but he works better as a heel. I mean, I've never seen him work as a face, so I can't really honestly tell you, but I think he could be a top star in the company. Langston, Big E, I think could be a top star in the WWE if they continue to build him up right. Like I said, not necessarily underrated, but he is the Intercontinental Champion right now. It's not like he's already fighting in main events. Bray Wyatt, I don't want to call underrated because he's facing John Cena at WrestleMania this year, so he's not technically underrated. I think they realized just how good Bray Wyatt is. So I think Langston, Big E, is definitely up on that list and will be a top star. I think I was writing an article about this and should be published later this week on how Big E could very well be the first African-American WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Because if you can recall, we've never had a black WWE champion in history. Only World Heavyweight Champion. And, WCW with Ron Simmons and whatnot. And World Heavyweight with Mark Henry and Booker T. But never a WWE champion. And I don't count The Rock, even though he is half black, half Samoan. I mean, like, fully African-American. We've never had a fully black WWE champion. So hopefully Big E Langston can fit that role. And also on that list, I put on Bad News Barrett, Wade Barrett. I hate calling him Bad News Barrett because I think it's a terrible name. It's a good gimmick, especially on like the JBL and Cole show. I think it's hilarious. But I think he's worthy of being much, much more. He hasn't wrestled a match in God knows how long. But I think he could be, it could very well be a top heel in the WWE. He showed that back in 2010 when he broke out from NXT. He's shown that a few times in the past in 2011, 2012, when he was repackaged time and time again. So I think Bad News Barrett, Wade Barrett, whatever you may call him, I think could very well be a top star in the WWE very underrated because they're currently utilizing him in a joke gimmick, whereas he could be a serious threat to the world title right now. But he's unfortunately not. But that is unfortunate. So hopefully at some point they come to their senses and repackage him in a more traditional role. Next question comes from Paul S. His question was, is it logical to break Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania? The only reason I would break the streak, the only reason that comes to mind, is to give credibility to a younger star. But right now, I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, but who really could break the streak, could benefit from it? Maybe, you know what I mean? Like Sheamus has already cemented his legacy, multi-time former world heavyweight champion. Someone said The Miz a couple of years ago, which is comical at this point. I'm a huge Miz fan, but I even find that laughable at this point. Dolph Ziggler, no. I mean, there's really no one that can, at this point in time, at 21-0, there's really no one that could break the streak. Like, even Daniel Bryan, I don't even think needs to break the streak. I mean, would he benefit from it? Sure, I think he could benefit from breaking the streak, but I think everyone would be so pissed that they would need to turn him maybe. I don't know if people would boo Daniel Bryan, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. Is it logical to break the streak? In simpler terms, no. I don't think there's any reason to break the streak. It's a part of WrestleMania, and he should just retire undefeated, in my opinion. I think there's no reason why he should break, even if it is for a younger star like Bray Wyatt, whoever it may be, Roman Reigns. I don't really think there's any point in it, especially a John Cena. I think a match between those two would be phenomenal. I've been pitching that for years now. But I don't think there's any logical reason to break the streak, and he should stay undefeated for the rest of his career at WrestleMania. Andre G asks, how would you book WrestleMania 30 with the current roster? Now, I pitched my card for WrestleMania 30 on a number of occasions, but this is the way that I would do it. I would have Undertaker versus John Cena, no doubt about it. I think that should have happened years ago. But and especially at WrestleMania 30, the 30th anniversary of their biggest show of the year, they should have had John Cena versus Undertaker. Missed the boat on that one, but whatever. The Wyatt family versus The Shield, I would not have had that happen at Elimination Chamber. I think they could have dragged that out until WrestleMania. I think that could have been phenomenal. That was one of the best matches in WWE that we've had in quite some time. So I think they could have either done, you could have had the Wyatt family go over at Elimination Chamber, The Shield go over on Raw, and then do the rubber match at WrestleMania. That would have been amazing, but unfortunately, that's not the route they took. I would have done Goldust versus Cody Rhodes. Been saying that for years now, and I think it would have been the perfect time to do it. But now they're just random participants in a forgettable battle royal. I mean, I know it's in memory of Andre the Giant, but even still, they'll just easily be overshadowed, which is a shame because they were the best thing going in WWE just a few short months ago. I would have done Brock Lesnar versus Batista. I know Batista works better as a heel, but had he come back as a face and gone after Brock Lesnar instead of winning the Royal Rumble and winning the contending for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, he easily could have been cheered. So that's my theory on that. I don't think he would have been booed. I think the only reason why he was being booed, or is being booed at the moment, is, well, at this point he's a face or a heel, so it doesn't really matter, is because Daniel Bryan is the only superstar that should have won that Royal Rumble match. Maybe aside from CM Punk, but Daniel Bryan was the guy that should have won the Royal Rumble. Batista won it after 6 days after coming back, so that's why people were pissed at him. But had he not won the Rumble and gone after Lesnar instead in a dream match, which I think could very well happen by SummerSlam, I think people would not have been booing him as much as they are/were. Another match I would have had on that card, Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk. And you say current roster, technically CM Punk is still part of the company. His contract doesn't expire until July. So he is technically still part of the company, so I would have done that. I would have had Punk win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at some point a couple months ago, or have Daniel Bryan win the championship and have the other one win the Royal Rumble and have them collide at WrestleMania. I would have done it in an Iron Man match. Someone asked me that in a past video. Which two superstars would have collided in an Iron Man match? I would have it be CM Punk and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. Other matches they would have done on the show, Mark Henry versus Big E Langston for the Intercontinental Championship. They were teasing that a few months ago, then just dropped it out of nowhere. AJ versus Naomi, which is a still very likely match we will get at WrestleMania this year. Though I fear that we'll get the Bella Twins involved. I don't think we need the Bella Twins involved. I'm not a hater of the Bella Twins. I think they've improved in the ring and in their as characters in the last year or so since they came back. But I don't need to see either of them as Divas champions. So I'd much rather just see AJ versus Naomi. And then Ryback versus the Big Show, a match that I thought would happen last year. They had a very good match on Raw back in November. And that could have been a good feud. But they're just throwing away Ryback in some stupid Raw right now in the tag team title match with Curtis Axel. And Big Show is just another participant in the Battle Royal. So that's my card for WrestleMania. I would have done some more matches too. I left off Triple H and Randy Orton. Nor do I care that I really left them off. I couldn't think of any matches for them. I don't really want to see them face each other at WrestleMania because their match at WrestleMania 25 was a disaster. So I don't really care that I didn't put them in any matches. I would have done like Rock versus Orton, but Rock isn't technically still part of the current roster, so I don't know. But that would have been my card for WrestleMania 30 if it was up to me. G. Porter Greg asks from Twitter, should Kurt Angle return to WWE? Absolutely yes. The real question is, can he return to WWE? Of course, WWE would welcome him with open arms, but at this point in his career, is his health up to the WWE standards? Because there's been reports in recent months saying that Kurt Angle would even pass the physical at WWE, all that kind of stuff. But I think he can have one or two matches. Just come back for a one-off match at WrestleMania 31, 32, or whatever, because obviously everyone and their mother knows that Kurt Angle's current TNA contract expires in September, and I do not at all think he's resigning. He has proved everything there is to prove in TNA. He's done it all there, and it's time to go back home to WWE. So I definitely think he should return to WWE for a few one-off matches with maybe Daniel Bryan or CM Punk if he's back at that point, and Cesaro maybe, and a few others. So yeah, I definitely think Kurt Angle should return to WWE, and I would love to see it. I think he's the only superstar, major superstar, because I would also love to see Rhino and Scott Steiner. Not all that likely, just one-off appearances. But he's like the last big star that I want to see come back for one last run in the WWE. I think Batista was on that list for me, Rob Van Dam, they all came back. And I think Kurt Angle's that one last guy that I want to see come back to WWE. And I have a feeling that will happen either later this year or on the road to WrestleMania next year. At Cody Collier 12 from Twitter asks, what is your favorite CM Punk moment before the Summer of Punk? So I would have said CM Punk winning the WWE Championship at Money in the Bank 2011 on July 17th, but of course he said before Summer of Punk, so I can't pinpoint that exact moment, so damn you for saying that. But all kidding aside, I would have to say either the moment he joined Nexus in late 2010, which I thought was a great moment when he slowly put on the Nexus armband and saluted David Otunga and the other Nexus members at ringside. That was great on the last Raw of 2010. Granted, the rest of the angle bombed, and they completely destroyed the Nexus from that point forward. I wouldn't say that was CM Punk's fault, but that exact moment I think was awesome, even though the aftermath was terrible. And another moment I would say was the final SmackDown before the Money in the Bank pay-per-view in 2010. I think it was, 2010. He was in a promo with the Big Show. That was when he was wearing the SES mask at that point, the Straight Up Society mask. And he was asking Show to do a 450 off the ladder and just ridiculing him and stuff. And just stuff like that. And I think that was the exact moment when I became a big CM Punk fan, as big as I am today. I liked him before that, but that was when I really became a CM Punk fan. So either that promo or the moment that he joined Nexus on the final Raw of 2010. At Tom Bella 7 asks, do you think there's a possibility of Punk returning at WrestleMania by costing Triple H the match for Daniel Bryan to win the title? There's been a lot of scenarios like that for CM Punk to return at WrestleMania, whether it be in the match costing Triple H the match for Daniel Bryan, returning the main event and costing Daniel Bryan the championship and turning heel and joining the Authority and what have you, similar to Stone Cold Steve Austin WrestleMania 17. I've also heard some people say that they would have CM Punk returning the Brock Lesnar Undertaker match and then seemingly go after Taker but only go after Brock Lesnar, get revenge for his loss to Lesnar at SummerSlam last year. So there's a lot of possibilities, dream scenarios for Punk to return to WrestleMania. I personally do not think CM Punk will be back at Mania. I said he won't be back at Raw in Chicago and he wasn't there, so I'm going to see the same thing for WrestleMania. Do I hope he's there? Absolutely. Like I said, I'm a huge CM Punk fan. I would love to see CM Punk back in WWE, especially on the biggest, grandest stage of them all. This wasn't a work from the beginning. If anything, they worked something out. They worked out a deal where he can come back. And by this point, he's not coming back anytime before WrestleMania. Let's just throw that out there right now. If he's going to come back, it's either going to be at WrestleMania or not at all, for at least for the foreseeable future. I say he will be back at some point, not anytime soon, not anytime in the next few months. But if he does come back at WrestleMania, it would be awesome. But your question is there a possibility of him returning at WrestleMania to cost Triple H the match? I think it's less than likely that Punk returns at WrestleMania. But if it's going to be in any spot at Mania, I think it's much more likely than him returning in the Taker-Lesnar match or the main event for the championship. I think it'd be awesome if he returned. It cost Triple H the match because, of course, they were feuding before CM Punk left or quit or whatever. So, I think there's a decent possibility of Punk returning in the Triple H Bryan match and turning his back on Triple H, not Daniel Bryan. I don't think it's smart to do Punk as a heel at this point in time because he's so heavily cheered. I think he works better as a heel, but he just is so goddamn over as a babyface. I don't think it's the right move to turn him heel upon his return, or if he returns to WrestleMania. So there's a slight possibility of that happening. All I will say, though, is just don't get your hopes up. At KillaJF asks, thoughts on the Shield turning face, no breakup, and the Real Americans beating the Usos, who were undefeated on Raw. In terms of the Shield, your question in regards to the Shield, I like the fact, like I said earlier on in the video, I like the fact that they're turning face. It's something fresh for them. It's something new. It's something exciting for them to do. It's something that they haven't done before. They've seemingly done it all. They've won the championships. They won the US title. They won the tag team title. They beat everybody in the freaking company. So the one last thing left to do for the Shield is to turn in face. So like I said, I think there's potential in a Shield face turn. They could sell major merchandise if they profit it well, if they promote it well and whatnot. So I think there is potential in a Shield face turn, like we saw last week on Raw. I think they can get very well over with the WWE Universe. So I like the Shield face turn. The fact that there's no breakup, there will be a breakup. Don't doubt that. There definitely will be a breakup. It might not be at WrestleMania or anytime in the next few weeks, but there will be a breakup at some point in 2014, whether it's at WrestleMania or the night after WrestleMania or following WrestleMania going to Extreme Rules, or at SummerSlam or leading into SummerSlam. It will happen at some point this year, no doubt about it. But when that happens too, I will be looking forward to. It will be bittersweet because I love the Shield so much. They should not break up, and they have just such great matches that I would hate to see it happen. But I will still be very much looking forward to seeing all three of those guys in singles competition on their own at some point later this year. And in terms of your question in the Real Americans beating the Usos, I think it's a good idea because the Real Americans have been established as contenders to the Tag Team Championships, and they have since been inserted into the Tag Team title match at WrestleMania, so I look forward to that. Hopefully we get the Rhodes Brothers in there too. Why Ryback and Axel are in there, I have no idea, to be quite honest with you. I don't want to see them in there. I don't really care for Ryback and Axel. I like Curtis Axel. I like Ryback, but they have no need to be teaming together. And they have definitely no need. They have no spot in the tag team title match. They don't deserve that over the Rhodes Brothers. So that being said, I like the fact that the Real Americans beat the Usos because now they are now in the tag team championship match at WrestleMania. And the final question comes from @Jaguar94Able. His question was favorite WWF/WWE championship belt design. Obviously, the worst would have to be the spinner belt. I did not like the spinner belt at all. I thought that was just specific for John Cena. Everyone else that held it after him just looked like a goof holding it. The one now that we have now, it's not the best, but I like it a lot more people. I like it than a lot more people give it credit for. I think it's a really cool design in the sense that they have the designs of the superstar, the logos on each end of the belt. So I think that's really cool. I don't hate the belt. I actually really like it. Is it my favorite? No, I would say my favorite WWF/WWE Championship belt design would have to be the Winged Eagle going classic. I know there was a picture circulating around a couple months ago. I think it was in the fall of 2013 of Daniel Bryan holding the Winged Eagle Championship belt. And a lot of people thought they would bring it back for Daniel Bryan and bring it back when there was rumored to be a new championship belt. You can't go back because it wouldn't be the same. I think just looking back on it is cool. You don't need to bring back any of the old belts. You need to move forward and create a new belt. So I like the fact that I like the belt they have now, and the fact that it's logos, not nameplates. It's something new. It's something fresh. It's something exciting. So I like the new WWE Championship belt design. I've said that numerous times in the past. My favorite belt design of the WWE title would have to be the Winged Eagle Championship belt design. So, with all that being said, guys, you guys can send in questions at my Facebook page. Simply like Graham Jason Matthews on Facebook and leave a comment on the wall. You can follow me on Twitter at WrestleRant. Tweet me with the hashtag AskGSM for your question to be inserted into next week's video. And you can also now leave a comment in the comment section below if you want to ask a question to get it in next week's video as well. So, with all that being said, make sure to subscribe as well, guys. And I will be back here right next week. Be right back here next week with another hashtag AskGSM video. Thanks for watching, guys. And until next time, this is GSM signing out. Till next time, guys.